Hey everybody. Oh look, a cat fight in the background. My name is Daniel Young. I'm the owner and founder of Adaptive Perspective and the Adaptive Perspective channel where I help you make your dreams a reality. And that really is my cat who's not happy for whatever reason. So this video should have posted last week, but for technology issues, one reason or another, it did not post. So I skipped a week, but back at it, or at least trying to be back at it. And we'll see if we get interrupted by cats. Um, so closed-end funds, our stock market strategy is uses closed-end funds, and it just represents one way how we're going to accomplish our dreams. So if you want the full methodology, all the background explanation on that, then check out my Facebook page called Adapted Perspective, Navigate Your Finances, where I detail out or at least detail out the framework on 12 steps to financial freedom. Um, our closed-end fund portfolio is built on lasting dividends, not a gradual sell-off of funds. So it's a no withdrawal portfolio. So we want to fund or supplement our retirement through dividends instead of slowly cashing out a portfolio. It's not built for quick, fast gains. It's also not completely built on a buy and hold strategy. Some funds I do plan to hold, we plan to hold for forever. Others we're kind of holding based on the market. And to be quite honest, I am thinking of restructuring that portfolio. Um, we target dividends, so not the traditional 2, 3, 4, 5% dividends. Talking more like 8, 9, 10% dividends. And that allows us to keep our principal funds invested and ride the roller coaster. So while the market goes up and down, those dividends pay. Um, we prefer to reinvest those dividends, but at some point, if we wanted to cash out the dividend side of things, we could. But that way, we still leave the principal intact. So how do we do that? We're gonna, or at least I'm going to show you. So this is an unedited video, as you could tell from my cat freaking out in the background. So who knows what else you'll hear in the background as I film these in my house. The disclaimers. See the description for the full disclaimers. The two that I'll mention here are that I am not a financial advisor. I am a financial strategist, and that I don't speak like the herd. I don't speak like the motley fool, who I think is called the fool for a reason. I walk in limited company. Sometimes I walk alone, and I am completely okay with that. So the overall mindset that guides our strategy, regardless of current pricing, the market looks forward. Regardless of how much you know, there's risk. And if you increase your knowledge, you decrease your risk. The more you learn and project the market, the better you do in the long run. The more you understand that many of these financial firms, really even the people that I like the best, they hinge on everything the Fed says and take what the Fed says as absolute truth. That's not me. I don't hinge on everything the Fed says. I think the Fed lies, just like every other government group. But the more you understand how the game is played and how the Fed is central to the game, and the more you understand your own strategy and how that fits into the system, the better you do. I do pay attention to the CNN Fear and Greed Index. I don't follow the news anymore. I don't watch their shows. I don't really think anything on CNN is good except their Fear and Greed Index. And if you're looking for a great time to get into the market, that's generally when the Fear and Greed Index is posted to fear, to extreme fear. Like everybody's afraid, money's being pulled out of the market, prices are going down. That's generally a great time to get involved. If there's extreme greed and prices are going up, that's generally not a good time to get involved unless you can buy what you already own and buy it for cheaper than you already have it. So if you're looking at dollar cost averaging, and I'll say, like, if you bought something at $12 and it's currently going up, but it's still under that $12 mark, then that's a decent, that's a decent strategy. That's kind of involved in our strategy, but that's not the whole crux of our strategy. So when I make these videos, I try to explain where I would park money right now, and then I justify where I would park money right now. So contrary to popular advice, investing in single stocks allows inflation to eat your gains. So if you look at Apple, Apple's the most recognizable, picked on, propped up company, and not like propped up like it doesn't earn it. That's not my point. Like people just prop it up and hold it up and suspend it above everybody else. If Apple gains 10% in the next 5 years, that's a 2% gain a year on average. Well, they only pay you a half percent dividend. So if inflation is at 4%, you're losing 3.5% a year. So that by the end of that 5 year period, all of a sudden it's like, hey, look, Apple's 10% more. That's great. Yes, but inflation has eaten the gains. Your money's actually worth less for just having sat there. So I prefer to go about that a different way. We buy funds, or we buy closed-end funds. Closed-end funds operate with limited shares, meaning they're closed off. They cannot create shares on a whim like Apple. So in a limited share environment, you actually get supply and demand. And buying Apple through a closed-end fund allows us greater access. You get less risk because of all the other companies inside the portfolio. You get sector diversity if you want it. You get gains over time. You get killer, consistent dividends. And we get all of that on sale or at a discount. So where would I park money? Just before I even show you a video, where would I park money? Real estate, oil or liquid natural gas, kind of energy infrastructure, bonds and BDCs or business development companies, tech that's somewhat dependent on the market. I mean, but our society is more oil and tech than we realize. And if you like technology, whether you want to admit it or not, you like oil because technology doesn't exist without the oil and all the oil byproducts. Consumer. We have some consumer stuff in our portfolio, and I'm honestly looking to ditch it for a couple reasons. But I'm not looking into the consumer side of things as most people say it. I don't want consumer consumption like Mondelez, who makes Oreo, Costco, and Walmart. If we had anything consumer, we want the consumer manufacturing, production, distribution side of things, like P&G or Nestle. But I'd even go more on the technology side of things with Samsung and Sony. Consumer cyclical goes with automotive, housing, entertainment, like hotels and restaurants, furniture and clothes retailers. Those needs come and go. I mean, look at Black Friday, look at New Year's, look at Memorial Day, and you can kind of see the up and down roller coaster of that market. From my standpoint, real estate needs to be in its own category. People say that real estate is cyclical, like there's a higher and lower demand, roller coaster style, but it's not really that way. Maybe it's that way for single family or multifamily housing. It's kind of based on the school year, but all year, almost every market, there is a constant pitter patter feet of people coming to your area for any number of things. Plus, you have the industrial side of things, or just the manufacturing side of things. And real estate is a little more consistent than people give it credit for. And I think it ought to be in its own category. So going even further, I am looking more at consumer on the side of consumer infrastructure. So if you look at shipping, which would be technology, oil, transportation, steel, like the infrastructure of the food industry in order to manufacture, produce, and get that product from one place to the next. But if you think about it, food prices have gone up a little bit. I mean, you get inflation and the devaluation of money. Yes. But food prices have gone up more, along with flooring and wall texture and this and that and the other, because it costs more to get that from one place to the next. And businesses aren't willing to eat that anymore. They've passed all those expenses on to us. So when it takes more time and money to ship it from one place to the next, they're padding that food pricing with the oil or the diesel or the transportation cost of getting that from one place to the next. So instead of just looking at consumer as a whole, like instead of just buying Oreos because I'm buying a brand name and it's Oreo and it's always going to be in demand or always going to be a wanted thing, I'd rather look at the manufacturing side of that or the oil side of that and invest at the forefront of what's needed instead of the, like, if I look at this giant piece of the pie here compared to where it synthesizes out or filters out into one product, I'd rather invest here than over here because it gives me more access and greater reward. All right, so videos and picks. So let's see the picks for this week. Let's see what we can scoop on bargain. So this is the closed-end fund master list. It's all 432 funds. We'll see if the math stayed the same. Right, and the dividends have gone up because the pricing has gone down. Now, we own everything in this light blue color. If it's grayed out, it's because it doesn't fit or it meets this standard. It doesn't meet our standard. Light green is interesting, and purple is recommended by somebody I read or trust. So how to filter the data. Everything's in alpha order, but if we filter it by the greatest discount, so instead of paying $1, it's like 40 cents off is how you look at this. So if you look at it as for every dollar invested, and yeah, every dollar invested. So if break even is 0%, and we make that 0% equal to $1. So if you pay $1 for it and it's worth $1, net charge. But if you pay $1 for it and you get it for 43 cents or 43% off, it's like 43 cents off the dollar. So you're getting it for, gosh, 57 cents. So for every, gosh, you're getting this for cheap. Like, God, like cheap. Like it used to be about 40 to 38% off. So for every dollar invested, you're getting it for like 60 cents. Now for every dollar invested, you're getting it for like 57 cents. Plus it throws a huge dividend and a huge sustainable dividend. So then these are ranked based on negative or discount. Oh, let's see. And then we rank it based on target. And how I do our targets are this. So if it's 3 asterisks, it's a buy alert, whether it's double the historical value, meaning double the historical discount, or double the 5-year discount, maybe both. Sometimes they're finally below premium, like they normally operate at positive 2 to 5%, maybe greater, and now all of a sudden they're on discount. That's a buy alert. Dollar cost average would be based on if we already own it, and it's marked for less than what our current average share price is, which that gets into, this is our portfolio last year. This is our portfolio this year. And unlike a lot of people who will just tell you they own one share and one average price, and this is how much return on investment, I show you everything. The good, the bad, the ugly. Yeah, the good, the bad, the ugly. And then 1 asterisk is things we're tracking. Now, we're tracking some of the funds we own, some of the funds that are recommended, and some of the funds that are interesting. But we own everything. We own everything in blue. So how we get this data over to the spreadsheet is, I'm just going to highlight the stuff that's the funds that have a buy alert. Oh, this is the data that should have been posted last week, but I couldn't get the video to work. current factors into, I like to know what we currently have when we buy things. So us personally, we're not looking to buy anything we don't already own, which means I can get rid of several of these funds. Now, some of these funds, like the Calamos funds that I just deleted, Calamos anything seems to be just a good overall fund. But before we invest in that, I really want to shore up what we already have. And I don't want to overextend what we already have. Recommendation wise on funds, it's kind of like if you spread your money out, people would tell you that's good because you're diversifying things. But when you diversify, you actually limit yourself. It's a mark of insecurity and not confidence. Like, so if you could spread your investments out, you decrease your risk. Well, but you also limit your ability to invest in something good. So if you want to diversify and spread yourself thin and not really make any ground, you can spread yourself thin and not make any ground, or you can target your investments. And instead of spending your money over 25 to 30 things, maybe spread the same amount of money into 10 things, and then you'll see a better outcome through those 10 things. So of our current portfolio, which we've gotten rid of a couple things, 1, 2, 3, the gray stuff is what we've gotten rid of. So we have 22 funds, and I'd really like to sell about 4 more. So before I add funds, I really want to shore up and work on what we already have. So discount wise, if you're looking at just discount, like where's the best bargain, you're looking at the greater discount. But just because that's 42 and that's 8 or almost 9 doesn't mean that that's a less worthy investment location, because it's relative to that individual fund's overall historic discount. So on average, the last 5 years, KYN's been about 12, but historically, there is no discount. Right now, it's about 9. So it makes the cut. How else so depending on order. So we've been working on targeting funds that normally are at least 10, but KYN will make the cut because I love the fund. But if we look at it based on the aforementioned categories, so if we look at real estate, real estate, BDC or bonds, oil, and did I miss anything? Maybe tech. So KYN is one of the best energy infrastructure accounts. PRW is loans and closed-end funds. IGR is real estate. These are banking and preferred shares. Bond related, but bond or stock, depending on how that company divides up their convertible shares. That's business development. This is healthcare. GLO is a portfolio in a can, but it's bond heavy, or at least it used to be. So as far as I know, it's bond heavy. ZTR is a portfolio in a can. HGLB is the sister to HFRO. It's got this insane discount right now. A little bit different structure than its sister company, real estate, communications, energy. All of these are tempting to me, and we own all of them. I mean, yes, they're blue. So of our current portfolio, I've been working on getting everything up to 200 shares. But with IGR cheap, like super cheap right now, historically it's about a 10% dividend or a 10% discount, but it's still higher than that. But it just share price wise, it's so cheap. It's tempting to match what we already have, which we have 150. It's tempting to add 150 at that level. KYN we have 250 of, FGB we have 200, GLO is 100, HGLB is 100, HFRO is 200. And I know this because I know my portfolio and I look at it. I don't look at it every day, but at the same time, I look at it often enough. Um, so here. So where would I park money? If you're just starting out, this is the best deal on the planet. Best deal in the market. So instead of $1, it is a 60, it's 58, 57% investment. It's like spending 57 cents instead of $1 when you buy something. And if their discount closes, like it, so if the Fed actually reverses rates and their discount closes, that price alone will increase that, and you still get this amazing dividend. Uh, so if you're investing and you don't have anything, I would go more bond, and then it's a split on real estate and oil. For us, I would almost flip it and go real estate, oil, bonds, just because of how our portfolio is already structured and where our money is set up. So on that, I'm not happy with the Aberdeen funds overall. Aberdeen bought out my fund that I love. DDF it was a fluctuating dividend, but at the same time, a healthy dividend. And I loved how their portfolio was structured. I loved how it was managed. And then they sold it. And since they sold it, and yeah, the market's changed, all that jazz. That's not my point, but of how this portfolio is structured, especially of how they structure it and run it based on AOD, still Aberdeen Fund, the price never really changes. The dividend changes sometimes, but the price never really goes up. It just kind of hovers around $9, which we can look at that. So make it since inception. And yeah, it might range between 9 and say maybe 9, maybe 8.5, maybe 11.5 or so. But it ranges in that $10 mark. And it just, that's it. It never really changes. Distributions, spotty distributions sometimes. It looks like they pay more, but then they're really just not paying a dividend and then paying you a double dividend. So it's kind of unimpressive compared to the fund that I started out with. But yeah, I mean, it's a consumer dominated fund. So the other misconception, so that's not quite a 12% dividend because it's still based on prior data. So the dividends we got from DDF in the sale of DDF and after the distribution of that money gives it that 12% dividend. But if you look at the company in general, it's really just a 9% dividend, which is still amazing compared, if you're getting a half dividend from Apple, 9% is insane. But it's just the overall structure of the fund. The one fund I like from Aberdeen that I've encountered, at least one fund I like is Facts. It's a bond fund for the Pacific Rim. And I know that these are global funds, so they're going to fluctuate a little more than the standard US based fund or funds that are, maybe 95% invested in just the US companies. Their funds are going to fluctuate more in price. But having owned them for this long, which is not long overall, I get 2 years versus a year. That just say I'm not impressed by what I've seen. So with this one being $22 down and this one being $28 up, I've thought of selling them both and taking the proceeds and then buying more of what I'm actually interested in. If it's me, my money's with IGR. Like that's where I would go based on where our portfolio is and where we're currently invested. If if you aren't invested in it in anything yet, or if you don't own a closed-end fund yet, I would go here because that's the greatest discount. Um, and you could kind of scale it down the line, but that's also diversification, which is good and bad depending on who you're listening to. Like KYN is diversity within the oil, liquid natural gas, utility industry. HGLB is more not quite portfolio in a can, but it's diversity inbuilt inside the portfolio. Versus GLO, CTR is a portfolio in a can. They're invested into every single sector. GLO kind of gets that way, but they're also into bonds. FGB is diversity within inside the business development company world. HFRO is bonds plus some other stuff. So I like closed-end funds because, I mean, yeah, for every reason I've said, but it's inbuilt diversity inside of the fund. So if I wanted to invest in energy, I could invest in Enterprise, Magellan, Exxon, Chevron, Shell, utilities like Atmos or Reliance or I think Dominion Energy. I could invest in every single one of those, or I could buy them all or almost all of them in one closed-end fund. Uh, Same thing for real estate, business development. I mean, you get the idea. So any of these are amazing buys at the moment because of the discount. If you haven't invested in anything, or if you don't own a closed-end fund, this has topped the list for at least the last year. At least the last 6 months for sure, but at least the last year. But where I'm going based on our portfolio, let's see, IGR, GLO, HGB, HGLB. Yeah. And that's honestly that's our strategy. So let me stop share. Um, I don't want to downplay your intelligence, and I don't want to think of how to say this. If you know your strategy and you can implement your strategy, that will help make you more successful than if you just buy stuff on a whim. So if I bought the funds that I really liked, but didn't really know what the actual cost was relative to discounts, like, so I can buy closed-end funds at discount, or I can buy them at premium. And one of the people I read, which I don't generally take their advice because it's different advice, different strategy, but I like it because it's challenging me. Like I listen to other strategy and go, that's not a good idea. Or maybe they come out with an article that affirms what I'm already doing. Like, hey, this fund is great. It's like, well, yeah, I already own it for a reason. But if it's like, buy this fund because it can pay and you'll do well in the long run, but you're going to have to pay double of the actual value of the fund. Like if the share is normally $4 and it's currently selling for 8, is that a great deal? No. So if you're just buying stuff that people recommend because they recommend it, and you don't really know all the intrinsic data about it, that's not helpful. Now, closed-end funds are not all that other metric data you get in evaluating individual funds. But I think that's good because it's a set number of shares. So it really is supply and demand. If a fund is popular and shares shrink, then the price will go up. If a fund is unpopular or not run well, then the share number will increase, right? And the price will go down. I think that's really nice because it makes it really easy to figure out what's on sale and what isn't on sale. And when it's on sale, can they keep paying their dividend? Can they grow? Can they uh, not continue to go down? And all of that factors in to make it's just easier to pick out stocks. So using a specific strategy of what's on discount, um, gosh, what's on discount, looking at yield after the fact, uh, ranking funds based on the current discount, but in perspective to the historical discounts, makes it easier to sort out. And then you look at the yield overall. If you still want yields at 6%, you can do that, but that's not our strategy. And then you build your fund based on the stuff that you want to invest in. And for us, it's real estate, technology, oil, or just overall energy infrastructure, business development, bonds, and then the outlier portfolio in a can. And instead of targeting individual consumer or consumer cyclical or consumer this or consumer that, I can find that stuff in the portfolio in a cans and then strip some diversity out of our portfolio, but also target investments better so I can funnel money into those investments and then they pay amazing dividends. So our strategy, and whatever your strategy is, know your strategy because that'll help you more than anything. If you're just investing in stuff on a whim and not really knowing what you're doing, that's not helping you. So if you like the content, consider subscribing to my channel. Hit the like button on the video and then head over to Facebook and join my group there called Navigate Your Finances. As you face the week, as you face this ongoing mission to retirement or just padding your pocket or whatever it is, whatever your strategy is for investing, you're the captain of your ship. You set the strategy, you set the vision, and you set the course. Captain your ship. You really do. You have the power to change your life and your financial future, and many people will offer to help you. I realize these videos fit into that. Many people will offer to help you, but only you can make the choice to do it. So know who you're following and why, know your strategy, and then implement your strategy. Don't just buy stuff because, right? Know your strategy, know why you're doing something, be able to explain it to somebody else, and then follow that vision. So whatever you have, whatever your strategy, whatever your end goal, whatever you're up to, make it happen because it will not happen on its own. So when you make progress and when you accomplish some things and when you check off some boxes and when you look in front of you and realize how far you've come behind, or how far you've gone, right? Make it happen. When people start to ask you, when people start to pay attention, shock your world. Make it happen, make people curious, help the next guy out or help the next girl out. So Daniel Young signing off. See y'all on another video. Bye-bye.